Let us now move to item 11D, the examination of requests for international assistance. The Secretariat has informed me that Colombia withdrew its request, so it is no longer for us to examine. This means that 2 requests remain to be examined under this item. Let me recall that we have here to evaluate to which extent the requests meet the criteria for international assistance as a whole. In other words, it's not necessary to meet each and every criterion in order for the international assistance to be granted. Before starting the examination of the requests, I think that it is important that we remember the criteria that must guide our decisions today. Can we please see them on the screen? In view of granting assistance, the committee will base its decisions on the following criteria. A1, the community participated in the preparation of the request and will be involved in the implementation of the proposed activities. A2, the amount of assistance requested is appropriate. A3, the proposed activities are well conceived and feasible. A4, the project may have lasting results. A5, the beneficiary state party shares the cost of the activities. A6, the assistance aims at building up or reinforcing capacities in the field of safeguarding intangible cultural heritage. A7, the beneficiary state party has implemented previously financed activities, if any, in line with all regulations and any conditions applied thereto. In addition, paragraph 10 of the operational directives refers to 2 considerations that the committee may wish to also consider when evaluating requests for international assistance. 10A, the request implies cooperation at the bilateral, regional, or international levels. 10B, the assistance may have a multiplier effect and may stimulate financial and technical contributions from other sources. Let us now move to the examination of the individual requests. We will now move to the examination of the request community self-documentation and revitalization of ceremonies and practices associated with MPACO naming system in Uganda, submitted by Uganda. I will now give the floor to the chairperson of the evaluation body so that he can share with us the findings of the body on this request. Mr. Skunti, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Inscribed on the urgent safeguarding list in December 2013, MPACO is a traditional naming system. It is faced with serious threats to its viability. The proposed safeguarding plan aims to revitalize the practice and the observance of associated ceremonies, enhance the capacities of the communities concerned to transmit knowledge and skills, and to revive the practice. The communities concerned will be the main drivers of the project, and 10 selected community professionals will facilitate throughout the capacity building workshops. The assistance concerns support for a project carried out at the national level aimed at safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in accordance with Article 20 of the Convention, and that it takes the form of the granting of a donation in line with Article 21, paragraph G of the Convention. Uganda requested an allocation of $232,120 US from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund for the implementation of this project. From the information included in the file, the request responds as follows to the criteria for granting international assistance as set out in paragraphs 10 and 12 of the operational directives. Criterion A1. The request concerns the development of a practical guide regarding community-based self-documentation of intangible cultural heritage related to the local naming tradition. The request places communities in a central position and is based on thorough study of community needs. Active community participation is ensured throughout the various stages of the project. Criterion A2. In light of the diversity and density of the activities planned within the project, the amount of assistance requested is appropriate. The budgetary items are clear and the sources of funding are well defined. Criterion A3. The budget is well conceived, reasonably structured, and consistent with the planned activities. There is a clear overview and precise timetable of the project, and the objectives are clearly specified and match the identified threats. Criterion A4. The mechanisms established by the project will continue to function beyond the lifespan of the project. The documentation gained will feed into educational materials with its multimedia formats being adapted for distribution through the mass media and for dissemination within and by cultural institutions and various cultural events. Criterion A5. 80% of the total project budget is requested from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund, while the state party is committed to providing 13%, with other partners contributing 7%. Criterion A6. Practitioners of Mpako traditions form clans, community associations, and cultural institutions will acquire documentation skills as well as the specific skills needed to carry out research, fieldwork, and training that will be introduced and developed through the project. Public awareness of the implications of the 2003 Convention will be also raised. Criterion A7. The state party has so far benefited from international assistance from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund 5 times for the following projects: inventory in the intangible cultural heritage of 4 communities in Uganda, 2013-2015, with an amount of $216,000. Preparatory assistance for the male child cleansing ceremony of the Lango people of North Central Uganda, 2012-2013, with an amount of $8,570. Preparatory assistance for Madi Bow Lyre Music, OD, 2013-2015, with an amount of $10,000. Safeguarding and promotion of Bigwala, gourd trumpet music and dance of Busoga Kingdom of Uganda, 2015-2017, with an amount of $24,990. Promoting intangible cultural heritage education in institutions of higher learning in Uganda, 2017-2020, with an amount of $97,582. As for paragraph 10A, the project is local in scope and would involve partners at the district and national levels. The non-governmental organization responsible for the implementation of the project is funded by international partners. As for paragraph 10B, a network of trainers and promoters of community self-documentation will be produced, thereby allowing for the extension of the programs related to intangible cultural heritage. The project is likely to stimulate financial and technical contributions from other sources and stakeholders. Therefore, the evaluation body recommends that the committee approve the international assistance request from Uganda for the project entitled Community Self-Documentation and Revitalization of Ceremonies and Practices Associated with Mpako Naming System in Uganda, and grant the amount of $232,120 to the state party to this end. The committee may invite the state party to pay particular attention to the existing religious sensitivities in the region concerned, both during and beyond the planning and implementation of the project. The committee may also recommend that the state party strive to ensure the long-term viability of the ceremonies and practices associated with the element, given that the final assistance requested is limited to 21 months. The committee may further invite the state party to use Form ICH4 report to report on the use of the assistance granted. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Skunti. The Bureau did not receive any request for debate or amendment for this file. May I therefore ask the committee to adopt draft decision on this file as shown on the screens as a whole? I see no objection. It is therefore declared. Decision 12-11D2 is adopted. Congratulations, Uganda. Would you like to take the floor? Yes, please, Uganda, you have the floor.
Uganda's delegation would like to thank the committee for approving the financial assistance for the implementation of the project titled Community Self-Documentation and Revitalization of Ceremonies and Practices Associated with Mpako Naming in Uganda. Uganda would like to thank the Secretariat for the invaluable guidance on technical input in the preparation of this request and the evaluation body for the due diligence in the evaluation of the request. Mpako tradition of the Batoro, Banyoro, Batuku, Batagwenda, and Banyavindi of Western Uganda was inscribed on the UNESCO's Urgent Safeguarding List in 2013. Mpako is a naming tradition whereby in addition to family and given names, a child is given a pet name, Mpako, from a list of 12 shared by the entire community. The practice is associated with rituals and ceremonies of which meanings form the niche of identity and belief system of the concerned communities. Mpako practice is faced with threats from religious groups, diminishing use of its language and abandoning performances of its ceremonies, coupled with drastic loss of knowledge of these ceremonies. The project is community-led and places communities concerned at the center of its implementation. This project aims at revitalization of performances of ceremonies and enhancing the capacities of bearers to transmit that practice by building the capacities of communities to document for safeguarding, increasing availability and accessibility to the associated knowledge, raising awareness, and mobilizing practitioners to revive their practice. A practical guide to community self-documentation of intangible cultural heritage will be developed, and the capacity of 87 stakeholders will be built to document their own intangible heritage, therefore creating a network of promoters of community-based documentators. The knowledge of the ceremonies and practices will be documented by the practitioners themselves and disseminated through multimedia channels, and therefore raising awareness of the communities. Uganda government will do everything possible to assist the concerned communities to ensure effective implementation and the realization of the goals of the project. We have developed capacity over the years on similar heritage safeguarding projects. The ministry responsible for culture, Uganda National Commission for UNESCO, and the local governments in the communities concerned and other national experts in intangible cultural heritage will be at hand to support the communities for the successful implementation of the project. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Uganda, and congratulations once again. We will now move to the examination of the request strengthening the capacity for the safeguarding and management of intangible cultural heritage in Zambia, submitted by Zambia. I will now give the floor to the chairperson of the evaluation body so that he can share with us the findings of the body on this request. Mr. Squinty, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Participants to capacity building activities carried out since 2010 in Zambia appreciated these workshops and were calling for the introduction of a more advanced and comprehensive version of the training. The proposed project intends to develop the capacities of administrators and experts working with local communities. It will use the UNESCO Capacity Building Program and its materials to develop a local syllabus and training manual. It is intended to inspire many people and have far-reaching benefits for people interested in the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage. The requested assistance concerns support for a project carried out at the national level aimed at safeguarding intangible cultural heritage in accordance with Article 20 of the Convention, and that it takes the form of the granting of a donation in line with Article 21, paragraph G of the Convention. Zambia requests an allocation of $334,820 from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund for the implementation of this project. From the information included in the file, the request responds as follows to the criteria for granting international assistance as set out in paragraphs 10 and 12 of the operational directives. Criterion A1, the project is a formal qualification in the field of safeguarding intangible cultural heritage, namely a degree program at the University of Zambia. During the preparation of the proposal, the views of the different communities were represented by the Chief Cultural Officer of the Ministry responsible for intangible cultural heritage and team of provincial and district cultural officers who were actively involved in the capacity building program. Criterion A2, the file provides a detailed budget grouping costs by activity. The timetable is planned according to the progress of each stage of the program and provides reasonable timeframes. Criterion A3, the budget is well conceived, consistent with the planned activities and reasonably structured with a clear overview and precise timetable of the project. The NSR Institute at the University of Zambia will be responsible for implementing the project in collaboration with the National Commission for UNESCO. Criterion A4, in terms of lasting results, the project will lead to the development of a national curriculum to strengthen capacities to implement the 2003 Convention. After UNESCO's support for 20 experts and practitioners during the initial 3 years, their subsequent fees and costs associated with new enrollments for the degree program will be supported by the Zambian government or corporate sponsors. Criterion A5, the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund would cover 90% of the total project budget, with the state party providing the remaining 10%. Criterion A6, it is mandatory for every student to carry out a practical project together with the communities and for their benefit. With the knowledge and skills acquired through the degree program, beneficiary students will be able to produce inventories and develop safeguarding projects. The capacities of the communities are also expected to be reinforced. Criterion A7, the state party has so far benefited from international assistance from the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund 2 times for the following 2 inventorying projects. Inventorying of proverbs of Lama community in Luango district of Zambia, contract under preparation, 2016-2017, for an amount of $24,999.90 US. Inventorying of the music and dance of the Lozi and Nkoya people of Kaoma district, contract under preparation, 2016-2017, for an amount of $24,928.30 US. These are implemented in accordance with UNESCO regulations. As for paragraph 10A, the proposed bachelor's program, degree program, in Intangible Cultural Heritage is national in scope and involves participants from all 10 provinces in Zambia. However, experts from other Southern African countries will also be invited to teach the subject in the future. Paragraph 10B, the project is nationwide in scope with the potential to expand beyond Zambia's borders. The University of Zambia is one of the first universities in the wider region to offer degree programs of this kind, and may attract students from different countries as well as sponsors to contribute to the sustainability of the program in the long term. Madam Chairperson, the evaluation body recommends that the committee approve the international assistance request from Zambia for the project entitled Strengthen the Capacity for the Safeguarding and Management of Intangible Cultural Heritage in Zambia, and grant the amount of $334,820 US to the state party to this end. The committee may invite the state party to seek the involvement of other collaborating institutions and organizations, including partners outside of the University of Zambia, in the implementation of the project, as a means to ensure transparency and greater impact. The committee may highlight the need for the state party to ensure that the outcomes of the project are sustainable beyond the completion of the first cycle of the degree program funded with this assistance. The committee may further invite the state party to use Form ICH 4 to report on the use of the assistance granted. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Skunti, for this detailed explanation. The Bureau did not receive any request for debate or amendment for this file. Oh, I see Santa Lucia. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, just a question. A reflection on Uganda, we have just passed, and they were given assistance 5 times. Zambia has been given assistance 2 times. When the evaluation body considers a new request, do they have any information on the implementation of some of these other assistance that have been granted to them to contribute to the implementation status, the impact, the outcomes, what is happening with all these assistance that have been given to the particular one? Do they have that kind of information to judge whether they should go ahead? That's my question.
Thank you very much for the question. Can I ask Mr. Skunti to answer the question, please?
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais remercier l'honorable délégué de Sainte-Lucie. Ce que nous recevons comme information, ce sont les projets qui ont été, les demandes d'assistance internationale qui ont été soumises par l'État partie concerné, leur montant et les délais de leur exécution uniquement. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Mr. Skunti. Does Secretariat have anything to add?
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. If I understand, the question from St. Lucia was following up on the assessment after the granting of the international assistance, or was it in terms of the evaluation?
St. Lucia?
Yeah. I'm just saying that, take Uganda, and I don't want this to be misinterpreted as any, I don't want it to be a block to the state party receiving assistance. It is just my opinion that the record of the state party in the management of the funds and things that they have been given before should be something important going to a decision as to whether they get other assistance.
Thank you, St. Lucia. Mr. Curtis, please.
Indeed, that part does come to the Secretariat, meaning once the Bureau, or sorry, in this case, the committee approves an international assistance when it's over 100,000, it is the Secretariat that manages the follow-up on the implementation. And indeed, there's criterion where, depending on the performance of past projects that have been implemented, should be informed. So that is the role, and that is precisely part of the discussions yesterday we had about the international assistance and the budget and the need, the work involved for the follow-up and implementation. So that is given consideration, but that role comes to the Secretariat, which may inform the evaluation body should it be problematic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. I think St. Lucia is satisfied with the answer, so we can proceed to the adoption of the draft decision. May I therefore ask the committee to adopt draft decision on this file as shown on the screens as a whole? I see no objection. I therefore declare decision 12-11D3 adopted. Congratulations, Zambia. The floor is yours for 2 minutes. Zambia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We start by congratulating you for chairing this session of the committee meetings. On behalf of the Zambian delegation, we'd like to thank the committee for approving our request for international assistance, a project on strengthening the capacity for safeguarding and management of the intangible cultural heritage in Zambia. The approval of the request will go a long way in building capacity in the area of intangible cultural heritage and in complementing government and private sector efforts at national, district, and community levels. The project will be fully supported by the Ministry of Tourism and Arts, that is responsible, the University of Zambia, where the training will be held, and the Institute of Economic and Social Research, that is highly involved also in the program for intangible cultural heritage, and the National Commission for UNESCO in Zambia. Once again, we thank the committee for approving our request. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Congratulations again, Zambia. Now that we have completed our examination of nominations to the urgent safeguarding list and the representative list, as well as the examination of a request for the transfer of an element and the examination of international assistance requests,